Hello everybody, this is Marcel from Oregon, and I wanted to talk about what's happening right now in Baltimore. In Baltimore right now, we are having riots going on behind the murder of Freddie Gray. At least that's what I call it. When you're in custody and you end up with a broken spine, um, gonna say the police murdered him. But and one of the officers said that it was from what they call a rough ride, which is what they'll do sometimes is they will cuff you and then not secure you in the back of the car and then drive recklessly while you slam around in the car, apparently to teach you a lesson of some sort. I really hate that this happened, the riots, but I knew that they were going to happen. I'd been telling family and friends that this was just a matter of time before it happened. You know, when you have certain officers around the country acting like they're gods. As I said in my last video, you get this, where they feel like they can do whatever they want to do whenever they want to do it, and there's no punishment. I mean, how do you throw a flashbang grenade into the wrong house and then put a bullet in the head of a 7-year-old and still keep your job? How does that happen? And it happens because they're the one people that we don't punish for doing things wrong, for not doing their job properly. And you can only beat on a people for so long. I mean, you have, Lloyd Stevens, who got choked to death here in Oregon years and years ago. And recently, you have Tamir Rice, you have John Crawford III, Eric Gardner, and then you have Walter Scott, who got shot in the back. Now, that officer who shot him in the back is being indicted for first-degree murder. I will see if he gets convicted, because, again, people think officers are God and can't do any wrong. But think about it. A lot of things have to happen in order for people to do this. I mean, you had the French Revolution, where the rich folks were taking everything from the peasants. I mean, that's a simplistic version of what happened, but it is what happened. You had the forceful removal of Muammar Gaddafi in Libya just a little while ago. And our revolution, no taxation without representation. Hell, the South tried to succeed from the Union because of, if I'm not mistaken, taxes and slavery. I'm sure there were a lot of other reasons, but those were the main ones. And right now, what's going to happen is you're going to have a bunch of black folks come on TV and pray for the violence to stop and pray for, the safety of the officers, and maybe one of them will throw in safety for the protesters. I don't like the violence any more than you do. Any more than any civilized human being does. But there just comes a time when enough's enough. I mean, how many ass whoopings do you have to take before you decide, I've had enough? How many black men and women have to be killed running away in the back of a car, holding loose cigarettes, or playing with a toy gun in a state that has an open carry, before people open their eyes and go, hey, they're living under a separate set of rules than I am? I mean, think about it. There was a kid named Austin Reich who had a long criminal record, led the police on a high-speed chase, and hours before this, he supposedly or allegedly killed his girlfriend and best friend. Then he ran up on officers and screamed at them to kill him. They just wrestled him down and took him off to jail. And you have Michael Wilcox. Same thing. Then you have Eric Fine, the guy back east who actually shot and killed a cop. I believe he did it. He was taken in with no more than a black eye. 2 sets of rules. And then you have the big one, James Holmes. The man killed a dozen people in Colorado and injured 70 more, and was caught at his car with bombs and more ammunition in it, and they still took him alive. So in other words, my life means nothing if I have a loose cigarette, if I'm playing with a toy gun, if I'm asking for help. It's okay to kill me. It's okay to gun me down if you're a police officer. But when you have people like this who look like you, or may not, could be a black cop, could be a Hispanic cop, whatever, your reactions are different. This is what makes places like Baltimore happen. This has been happening for hundreds of years. I mean, we keep saying to our youth, be patient, peace, talk. Where's that gotten us? I'm not advocating violence by any means, but I'm not saying that there's never a time for it. People have done it all throughout history to right injustices, and sometimes just to take what someone else has. But I'm not going to call those people in Baltimore scumbags and thugs. I'll leave that to Charles Barkley and Common and Pharrell, people who believe that no matter what happens to people of color, they should just suck it up and deal with it, or make a ton of money, and then they'll be out of the reach of those people. But I understand where they're coming from. I do. I don't advocate violence, but I knew this was going to happen. You can't beat on at people forever and not have this happen. You just can't. If you were to treat everybody the same, if Holmes and Wilcox and Fine had been killed in the process of arresting them, it wouldn't have justified it, but it would have made it a little easier to deal with Tamir Rice. It would have made it a little easier to deal with John Crawford III, Eric Gardner. It would have made it a little easier to deal with. But when you see those people who are at the extreme end of violence get taken into custody, and then you have those other guys who really aren't doing anything get gunned down, what's supposed to happen? We've been talking to the authority forever. Now, here's the thing. The police aren't doing anything more than what they've always done. They've been, abusing people forever and a day. It's just that now we have video. Everybody's got a camera. Everybody's got one. There are cameras, there are traffic cameras, ATM cameras, security cameras, they're everywhere. And they can't hide by saying my word against his. They can't drop a taser next to the guy he just got shot in the back and go, oh, he took my taser. Well, the video shows you dropping the taser. That was, 50 feet back there. You ran up, got it, and dropped it there. Shows to me like you planted it. And that's the kind of stuff that's setting people off. Is that they're actually seeing it. It's not rumor. It's not hearsay. It's not me telling you, oh, last night I got, harassed by a police officer. Didn't happen, but for example, last night I got harassed by a police officer, pulled me out of the car, and they held me there for an hour and a half because they said my taillight was broken and it actually wasn't. Or I got beat up by the police last night because my taillight was broken when it wasn't, and they didn't like my attitude. See, that doesn't have the same effect as if you saw that and heard their voices. There is some good. There was a cadet, and I can't remember where he was. He was out with a senior officer. I think the officer had like 10, 15 years on the force. Turn off his body camera before he beat the crap out of somebody. And his finger shows him going to the thing, turning it off before he whooped this dude. The cadet went and turned him in. Now the officer's under investigation for aggravated assault and a few other charges. He's on paid vacation, basically, because they're still paying him. But see, that's the first step. Good officers have got to rat out the bad. Rat out's a bad word. They have got to keep speaking to their superiors, to the media, whoever you want, whoever they need to talk to in order to get these bad police officers out from behind these badges. And if the public sees that, along with people like Holmes and Fine getting the same treatment Tamir Rice and Eric Gardner got, you wouldn't have Baltimore. You just wouldn't. This would not have happened. And I'm watching Fox News, and Fox News is blaming, the people who are protesting, and I expect them to. I really do. I expect that. But I don't expect to see, Montel Williams telling those protesters, don't do this. You know how bad it's gotten down there? And I'm kind of all over the place, but I want to make sure I hit all my points. You know what's happening down there now? The gangs have band together. They've put together a truce to help defend the public against the police. I never thought I would hear those words. Gangs, truce, defending against police. I never thought those would go together and form a sentence or a statement. I never thought that would happen. But that's how bad it's getting out there, guys. My wife and I were talking about kids the other day. And I told her, with a heavy heart, and I don't think she understands sometimes how much this affects me, but I don't want to have a son. I don't. I would be afraid every day of his life until I died that he's going to get killed. That some police officer is going to see him as a thug, a hoodlum, and gun him down. It frightens the hell out of me. I'd rather have a daughter. I can deal with the girl problems. But a black male, I don't want a son. I don't. If I have one, I'll love him to death, but I'll be terrified every day that he'll end up like Tamir Rice or John Crawford III, Lloyd Stevens, or Walter Scott. And the sad part is, most people don't care. They don't care. They do not care what happened to these people. They automatically assume that they did something wrong. Automatically assume that they were bad people. And they just don't care. They just don't care. I care. I want the violence to stop. But I'm not stupid enough to think that it's never going to get violent. We need solutions. We need to have certain sets of rules put in place for how the police protect and serve us. That officer who turned off his body camera, automatically fired. Should be rule number 1. Automatically fired. If the thing happened to go out, you suspend him until you figure out if it was a malfunction. If it was a malfunction, no problem. We need to have special prosecutors who come in for police shootings. Federal prosecutors who answer to no one but the federal government. Michael Brown was a perfect example of that. When the DOJ came out with their report that the officer in question, Mr. Wilson, was justified, I was fine. Okay, well, it was looked into by an official group who had no connection to the situation, and they said that Michael Brown, attacked him. Fair enough. Dummy shouldn't have attacked a police officer. Don't think he deserved to die, but you run that risk when you attack a police officer. No problem. But what about all the others? What about the young kid who got arrested? I can't remember what they arrested him for. His mother reported him missing. At the station where he was being held, the kid was 10 years old, where he was being held, and they didn't tell her. They waited 24 hours, but they said, oh, yeah, we arrested your kid, black kid. You imagine what's going through that woman's mind? He's underage. They're not even supposed to be able to talk to him without mother present or father. It has to stop. I have a loved one who's a police officer. Someone who's one of the very few people on this planet I'd take a bullet for. Without hesitation, reservation, or any questions. If it came down to him or me, it'd take me. He's one of the good ones. And he's trying to make a difference. And I know he is. But until we get the bad ones out, you're going to start seeing this more and more in communities all across the country. You're going to start seeing this more and more. People are tired of being beaten, harassed, and killed by the police. We're tired of it. We're tired of you treating us like we're animals. But you have the white ones who actually are the criminals who I named. Not all as a whole, but all the ones that I named, who get better treatment than a guy with loose cigarettes. How's that possible? Murder a dozen people, you get better treatment than a guy with loose cigarettes. I don't understand that. The guy who murdered 12 people is an animal and then deserved his next breath. But the guy who has loose cigarettes deserves to be choked to death and die. Or what about the black dude who got shot by that old cow, basically a cowboy who paid to be an officer? Taser, taser, oh my God, I shot him. He's dead. You know what the police said to him as he said he can't breathe? Fuck your breath. Fuck your breath. Really. These are the people that out of the tax money that I give, or that they take, I pay for? Is this? Really? To wrap it all up, I knew this was going to happen. It's going to happen more and more until we seriously sit down and talk, and seriously sit down and figure out how the police and public's interactions are going to go. And what happens when a police officer does go bad. When a police officer does step over the bounds that have been laid out for them. We can't continue to say that whatever you do, however you do it, is okay. Too many lives have been lost, and too many lives are going to be lost if we don't rein this in. I don't know what else I can do except continue with my videos and try to reach people. But this is Marcel in Oregon, and that's how I see it. Thank you for listening.